Thank you, Mr. Van Bury. Lisa Vanderpump, maybe some of you have heard of her. She is known to millions of people who watch television. She is indeed one of the most popular television personalities, as well as a prominent restaurateur, and most importantly, a humanitarian. She is a major supporter of this organization, Keeping the Memory Alive, formed to bring awareness to various neurological diseases, including Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease. She passionately believes that those who have should give. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lisa Vanderpump.
Thank you, members of the Executive Board and distinguished delegates, for having me today. I'm honored to be here. The current Ebola outbreak has taken more victims than every other outbreak combined. The graphic images of victims lying bleeding from the gut and people stepping over them is heart-wrenching. We have to be proactive and increase funding for research, or we are guilty of stepping over them as a nation. We have seen evidence of success with regard to Dr. Brent Stanley of a cure, but funding is essential. It is not just a West African problem. We are a global community, and it is our problem. And I urge all nations to pay attention to this crisis. Why am I here? I am fortunate that it is only my heart that bleeds for the 16,000 children orphaned due to the Ebola virus, because where I come from, Ebola has not affected or infected us as gravely as it has in West Africa. But I know that doesn't exonerate us from taking responsibility for the crisis that possibly lies ahead. A crisis that will torch this planet as it rapidly wreaks havoc from one community to another unless we eradicate it in its tracks. To date, I think it's over 23,000 cases have since been reported, resulting in almost 9,400 deaths, the majority coming from Guinea, Liberia, and as we know, Sierra Leone. 10,000 people died brutally at the hands of this insidious disease that first struck in 1976. This horrific fact needs to resonate with our global community, and action needs to be immediate. According to Dr. Nabarro, the United Nations Special Envoy for Ebola, the fund for the United Nations-led effort to combat and keep Ebola contained is projected to be $600 million for 2015. However, the estimated cost of defeating the epidemic in 2015 is $1.5 billion. This leaves us with nearly $1 billion gap in funding. And as you see, I don't have it, so that's why I'm here. As the United Nations, a collective representative of our beautiful and diverse world, I stand before you today to urge you to pay attention to this crisis. Liberia is showing improving signs, while the problem in Guinea remains skeptical, and Sierra Leone's is looking better, but it's still bleak. Even a small outbreak from the remaining cases could start another epidemic that could result in thousands of deaths. With proper funding, we can strengthen basic public health infrastructures and provide a more strategic emergency response team to help prevent outbreaks in unaffected countries and set up ground zero research aimed at introducing new medical products. Lastly, there is a topic that is not spoken about often, yet needs to be addressed. We have to end the shame and disgrace associated with Ebola survivors and responders. There are currently a little over 10,000 Ebola survivors in West Africa alone. Instead of being praised and celebrated for overcoming this terrible disease, these 10,000 plus survivors are often ostracized as we speak from their respective communities. Now that's wrong, because with the proper training and support, these survivors could become immune responders, thus giving them the validation and the purpose they deserve. We have made great strides in the recent year, and I want to commend the incredible effort that these doctors and health workers do as they work tirelessly in their endeavour to find a vaccine and deal with patients whilst putting their own lives at risk. However, much more needs to be done to get the Ebola numbers to zero, and it cannot be done without the help and support of a strong and impassioned global community. Work groups like MSF and Partners in Health are doing it, and I appeal to all governments to support this. I thank the UN and NGOs for their collaborative partnership in the fight to eradicate the scourge and build and strengthen the health infrastructure. Please, we all have a responsibility to the victims of the dreadful and devastating disease that these people have not died in vain. Distinguished leaders and honoured guests, do not let your legacy be one of silence. We are fortunate enough that we can still learn by our mistakes. The mistake being the silence during the Reagan administration in regard to the complacency and action taken in relation to the AIDS epidemic. It was their disease. It was a gay disease. 22 million people died. 25 million people are still infected. So they were wrong. It was our disease, and it still is. And the same goes for Ebola. It is not West Africa's disease. It is ours. Let us remember, silence, apathy, and lack of support equals fatalities. Thank you.